We'll go ahead and get started. I appreciate everybody coming down. And so we will open the Metropolitan Planning Commission meeting for March 10th, 2022. And we'll call the meeting to order. And so just the only item I have as far as housekeeping is masks are optional. So just so you know, you're allowed to wear them if you feel you need to or not. So we appreciate everybody doing that. And that was because of after the new CDC guidance. So thank you for wearing masks for the last 2 years. I feel like we have finally gotten to a point where we can be together. So appreciate that. Next is if everybody just silent their phones, just so that as the meeting goes along, I always remind myself to do the same. And commissioners, I'm going to silent my phone. And so we will go ahead and get started. And so commissioners, we are on item B, which is the adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion? There's a motion and a second. Any discussion on the agenda? It was sent out prior. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor say, seeing no other discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed no, ayes have it, and the agenda is adopted. And so we are on item C, which is the approval of the February 24th, 2022 minutes, which were also sent to you ahead of the meeting. And so we'll need a motion to adopt the minutes. Is there a motion? Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the minutes are approved. We are on to the recognition of the council members, which we just go by when we see y'all come in. And so I saw Council Member Swope first, and he just waving. You want to do? You wait for the item, okay? And then I saw Councilor Benedict. You want to go or wait? Whoa, okay. Man, we're starting off with a good 2022. No, thank you all for coming down. Appreciate it. And always appreciate our council members. All right, so we are on item E. I didn't see any other council members. Let's just make sure. Okay. No other council members. All right, so we are on item E, which is items for deferral, withdrawal. And I think Lisa is going to take us through those. Okay, go ahead, Lisa.
The following items are for deferral or withdrawal. On page 3 of your agenda, item 1A, 2021 CP 008003, North Nashville Community Plan Amendment. Staff recommendation is to defer to the March 24th meeting. The associated case 1B, 2021 SP 044001, Germantown Green. Staff recommendation is to defer to the March 24th meeting. On page 4 of your agenda, item number 2, 2019 SP 007003, Sonia Drive Mixed Use Development Amendment. Staff recommendation is to defer to the March 24th meeting. Item number 3, 2021 SP 057001, Marina Grove. Staff recommendation is to defer indefinitely. Item number 4, 2021 SP 063001, Charlotte View West. Staff recommendation is to defer to the March 24th meeting. Item number 5, 2021 SP 091001, Pinhook Ridge. Staff recommendation is to defer to the March 24th meeting. And I would like to note that Commissioner Blackshear is recusing herself from that item. Item number 6, 2022 Z031PR 001. Staff recommendation is to defer to the March 24th meeting. On page 5 of your agenda, item number 7, 2021 S238001, Bowles Property. Staff recommendation is to defer indefinitely. Item number 8, 2022 S025001, Overstreet Subdivision. Staff recommendation is to defer to the March 24th meeting. Item number 9, 2022 S042001, Rosebank Subdivision, re-subdivision of Lot 29. Staff recommendation is to defer to the March 24th meeting. Item number 10, 2022 S048001, 8392 Cub Creek Road. Staff recommendation is to defer to the March 24th meeting. Item number 11, 2021 DTC 027001, 801 Monroe. Staff recommendation is to defer to the March 24th meeting. On page 6 of your agenda, item number 15, 2022 SP 014001, Mulberry Downs. Staff recommendation is to defer to the March 24th meeting. And on page 7 of your agenda, item number 19, 2022 Z 024PR 001. Staff recommendation is to defer to the April 14th meeting. And I would like to note that the April 14th meeting will be at an alternative location due to elections. So it will be at the school board meeting room.
Thank you, Lisa. And so, commissioners and to the public, these items, make sure I'm correct, will be deferred or withdrawn. Items 1A, 1B, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 15, and 19. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, commissioners, you've heard the items for deferral. Is there a motion to defer? There's a motion and a second. And a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Those items are deferred. We are on item F, which is the consent agenda. And Lisa?
As information for our audience, if you are not satisfied with the decision made by the Planning Commission today, you may appeal the decision by petitioning for a writ of cert with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the entry of the Planning Commission's decision. To ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met, please be advised that you should contact independent legal counsel. I will now read through the item numbers that are on the tentative consent list and will ask if there are any members of the audience that are in opposition. If so, please raise your hand and that item will be removed from consent and will be presented for a hearing. Item number 12, 2021 SP 095001, 2600 Dickerson Pike. Is there anyone here in opposition to item number 12? Item number 13, 2022 SP 010001, Overland Park SP. Is there anyone here in opposition to 13? 13 will be heard. Item number 14, 2022 SP 012001, Plaza Mariachi Sign. Is there anyone here in opposition to item 14? Item number 16, 2022 Z 011PR 001, rezoning on River Drive. Is there anyone here in opposition to item 16? Item number 17, 2022 Z 021PR 001, rezoning on Cardinal Avenue. Is there anyone here in opposition to item 17? Item 18, 2022 Z 025PR 001, rezoning on Old Springfield Pike. Is there anyone in opposition to item 18? Item 20, 2022 Z 027PR 001, rezoning on 31st Avenue North. Is there anyone in opposition to item 20? Opposition? Yeah. Okay. We will hear that case. Item 21, 5384P 006, Rosemont Phase 4. Is there anyone in opposition to item 21? Item 22, 18884P 004. Is there anyone in opposition to item 22? Item 23, 7874P 005, Raising Canes. Is there anyone in opposition to item 23? Okay, Chair, I will read through those with the captions now. As noticed to the public, items on the consent agenda will be voted on at a single time. No individual public hearing will be held, nor will the commission debate these items unless they are removed from the audience or by the audience or the commission. The following items are on the consent agenda. On page 6 of your agenda, item number 12, 2021 SP 095001, 2600 Dickerson Pike. It's a request to rezone from CS and IWD to SP for properties located on Plum Street and Dickerson Pike to permit 349 multifamily units. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. Item number 14, 2022 SP 012001, Plaza Mariachi Sign. It's a request to rezone from SCC to SP for property located on Nolansville Pike to permit a sign. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. Item number 16, 2022 Z011PR001. It's a request to rezone from RS10 to R10, various properties located on River Drive. Staff recommendation is to approve. On page 7 of your agenda, item number 17, 2022 Z021PR001. It's a request to rezone from RS10 to R10 for property located on Cardinal Avenue. Staff recommendation is to approve. Item number 18, 2022 Z025PR001. It's a request to rezone from AR2A to RS30 for property located on Old Springfield Pike. Staff recommendation is to approve. Item number 21, 5384P006, Rosemont Phase 4. It's a request to revise the preliminary plan for a portion of the Rosemont planned unit development to permit 133 multifamily units. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions. Item number 22, 18884P004. It's a request to revise a planned unit development for property located on Old Hickory Boulevard to permit office and multifamily residential. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions. On page 8 of your agenda, item number 23, 7874P005, Raising Canes. It's a request to revise the preliminary plan and for final site plan approval for property located on White Bridge Pike to permit a restaurant. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions. And under item H, other business, item number 24, new employment contract for John Houghton and Robert Murphy. Item number 25, contract amendment for Eric Hammer, Anna Greider, Letitia Birkeland, and Joni Williams. And item number 29, to accept the director's report.
Thank you, Lisa. And so, Commissioners, on the consent agenda, which all these are passed at the same time, these are the following to approve on the consent agenda. And these are...
I forgot to mention that Commissioner Blackshear is recusing herself from item 22.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. And so the consent agenda items to be approved all at one time are items number, make sure we're correctly, so items number 12, 14, 16, 17, 18, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, and 29. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, Commissioners, you've heard the items to approve on the consent agenda. Is there a motion? There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and those items are approved on the consent agenda. And so now we are on items to be considered, which we will hear items number 13 and number 20. And just as a reminder of the process, I always like to just very quickly tell everybody, because sometimes we have a lot of folks that have never been here before, and so we really appreciate you all coming down, and we want everybody to be heard. So what we do is we open we'll go through the presentation by the planning team, planning staff, and then what we do is the applicant will present the case, and then anyone wishing to speak in support goes first. They get 2 minutes each. Please state your name and address for the record, and then after we get through that, then we'll anyone wishing to speak in opposition will get 2 minutes, and then we'll have a rebuttal, and then the council member will speak. And then we'll close the public hearing, and then the commissioners will speak. So we appreciate everybody coming down. Thank you very much. And so we are ready for item number 13.
Item 13 is for Overland Park. This is a request to permit 36 single-family lots. The site is approximately 14 acres. It is located on the west side of Edmonton Pike. Bamberry Crossings is directly to the north and west. A stream bisects the property at the location of the blue arrow. Staff recommends approval with conditions and disapproval without all conditions. The existing zoning is R40. It will permit up to 18 residential units. This is the proposed SP. It includes 36 single-family lots with a density of approximately 2.4 units per acre. The minimum lot size is 12,000 square feet, and as shown, all lots are at least 70 feet wide at the street. All lots will be accessed from a new public street, connects to Edmonton Pike. Plan includes architectural standards pertaining to materials. The developer has also committed to roadway improvements to the north of the site at the intersection of Edmonton Pike, Banbury Station, and Mount Pisgah Road, and it is noted on the plan. The policy is neighborhood maintenance and conservation. Neighborhood maintenance is intended to preserve the character of the area it is applied. These areas are expected to experience some change over time, but new development should mostly be consistent with the surrounding development pattern. It also calls for the enhancement of street and pedestrian connectivity. Conservation policy is intended to protect environmentally sensitive areas. In this case, it is intended to protect the stream that bisects the property. Staff finds that the SP is generally consistent with the policies. The layout is suburban in character, the density is in keeping with the surrounding area, and the minimum lot size is in keeping with the surrounding area. A buffer is provided on both sides of the stream, consistent with stormwater requirements, consistent with the conservation policy. What the plan does not do is enhance vehicular and pedestrian connectivity. Upon initial review, staff asked that the new street be connected to Banbury Station. Bamberry Crossings was designed to connect to this site. There's existing right-of-way from Bamberry Station to the site and is circled in red. After further evaluation, staff concluded that the connection is not necessary as it does not provide a meaningful connection due to the surrounding road network. While staff does not feel a street connection to Bamberry Station is necessary, a pedestrian connection is important and should be incorporated into the plan. This will allow for a safe route for pedestrians between the neighborhoods. Staff also finds that a stub street to the south should be provided. This will allow for future connectivity to the properties to the south if those ever develop. Both of these improvements are conditions of staff's recommendation. In conclusion, staff is recommending approval with conditions and disapproval without all conditions.
Thank you, sir. And so we'll open the public hearing on this particular item. And is the applicant in the room? He's in the room. Welcome. You have 10 minutes, and you can save 2 of the minutes of your 10. Your microphone. It's like you've never been here.
I don't think I've ever turned that on before. Someone's always left it on. I guess I'm the first one up today. So there you go.
Welcome.
We'll start over. So I'm Roy Dale, 516 Heather Place. The client is actually Beezer Homes. I'm representing Beezer on this development. I just want to talk to you about planning. Did a great job explaining everything, all the details about the plan, so I don't think it's necessary for me to duplicate that. But I want you to know about the public process, which I know you think is important, very important. So this started out with a community meeting. About 300 people attended that meeting. There was actually a representative from NDOT there. There was even a representative from the mayor's office there. And there were a lot of, the plan that was presented before the community had more lots. The lots were narrower. The setbacks on the sides of the houses were narrower. There was not enough landscaping buffering on that plan. It did show a connection to Bamberry, which people just adamantly did not want. So after that meeting, I actually attended more meetings within the community with individual neighbors. And so I revised the plan to reduce the lots, to provide, I think we had 10-foot setbacks. We increased those setbacks between houses to be at least 20 feet. We made all the lots wider, larger, more landscaping. Pretty much revised the plan to the extent that planning also felt like it was a viable plan and would meet policy. I know there's a part of this plan that's asking for off-site improvements, which my client wants to do, but the plan itself sort of stands on its own. The densities are similar to the densities adjacent to it. The lots are similar in size, and so the plan itself is good. The fact that this applicant is willing to do off-site needed improvements, I think makes it even better. I'll let the council member discuss that. He's much more articulate about that than I am because he's gone through a long process of discussing that with various departments and probably with planning as well. And so from a community's perspective, we went from 300 people to probably less than 300 hopefully. One of the universal things that people talk to me about, although we're not showing a vehicular access to Bamberry, so a lot of people don't want there to be any access at all. They're concerned that this neighborhood will utilize their open space or their common grounds or their pool. And so I'm sure someone will talk to you about that. I would hope that the neighbors could work together. Maybe they could join the same HOA, possibly. And so I know that's a condition of the plan, which we'll find out how the neighbors feel about that. But we certainly agree to the access, the additional access to the south, vehicular access. I think that's good. And my clients agreed to do that. So we appreciate the staff as usual. They've done a great job working with us, hopefully working with the council member. I'd like to hear what the community has to say, but I think I've addressed the majority of things that they've asked me to do. Most of them seem to be okay now with the wider lots, the larger lots, the deeper setbacks, the wider setbacks. The density is, although the properties around it are R40, the densities are, that must have been developed maybe before it was R40. I don't quite understand it, but I looked at the densities. It's about 2.5, 2.3 to 2.4 units per acre even around it. So this is in line with the density of the areas around it as well. There are architectural standards on these buildings. I believe they're to be 100% brick or masonry, which is something the community also asked for as well. And I think based upon all of those changes that were made, I think we're in pretty good shape. So I'll retain 2 minutes, although I don't really feel like I'll need to use those 2 minutes. I think the council member will probably wrap it up pretty good. So I appreciate your time and your efforts and your volunteerism, and I'll talk to you later.
Thank you. And
I'll leave the button on.
Yeah, leave the button on. Thank you, Mr. Dell. So you'll have 2 minutes for rebuttal. So we are now, anyone wishing to speak in support? No one wishing to speak in support? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Come on up. And so everybody gets 2 minutes. The timer is right here. You can see the time. And so we appreciate everybody coming in today. And come on up and state your name and address. Thank you for coming in.
My name is Laura Duddy, and I'm speaking here on behalf of my father, Ed Hantel, who lives at 6517 Turnberry Way in Bamberry Crossing. This is next door to the proposed subdivision. He's concerned about the number of homes that are proposed to be built on this relatively small piece of land. With the existing zoning, the developer would be able to build 18 homes. With the proposed zoning change, that number would double to 36 homes at a rate of 2.5 homes per acre. His concerns are threefold. With that many homes clustered together and with very little green space, he's concerned about cheapening the area as the houses will be right on top of each other. You can see in the drawing how close they are to each other. Secondly, there's already traffic issues in this exact area with accidents happening regularly, just a short distance away from the proposed subdivision entrance at the curve on Edmondson Pike. He understands that the developer is supposed to provide a roundabout for that curve, but we don't see where that roundabout is specifically required within the developer's proposed proposal or that it's legally required. We've heard too many times that the roundabout is coming, but it never does. He's a former educator, and he also finds that the Metro School reports to be inadequate. The findings detail that with 36 homes, there will be only 7 school-age children that will attend Metro schools, which is absurd. The schools are already at over capacity, and the likely number of school-age children is probably at least triple that number. Based on these concerns, he would like for the zoning to stay as it currently is at 18 homes. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming in. Who wants to go next? Come on up. Thanks for coming.
You're First name is Edsel, last name is Charles. I live at 609 Bamberry Place. I back up to the property. I've been there for many, many years. I've been involved with almost all the tracts of land that have been rezoned in that area for years. That's what I do for business. If you go back over the last 20, 25 years through other planning directors, planning staff, everybody in all those years back to Jeff Browning, other directors, other things, other commissioners, everybody's required 2 lots per acre. What I did is I went ahead and I mapped, I dropped off to Lisa yesterday, a wall map of all the tracts proving that's all been 2 lots, but there's no exception. We were told when James Carbine did Bamberry Crossing, one of the landowners now that's selling really got mad at me and made sure it was going to be 2 lots per acre, which is fine, good people. And so we did 2 lots per acre. And now we're talking about changing that to more than 2 lots per acre. There is no exception. You can go back and look at Cottonport, you can look at every track on the west side of Edmondson Pike, all the way back to Williamson County line, all the way back to Cottonport. Everything is 2 lots per acre because we had no choice by planning commission, by planning staff, planning commissioners. Everybody made us do that. There was no choice. All of us wound up, and builders that I was involved with, all went out, told everybody, that's the size of the lots, that's the size, which is going to relatively bring on the size of the home. Now we're going to change the rules. And we're going to go for less than 2 lots per acre. All that tells me, everything that we said all those years didn't count. I just think it's really, really, really bad policy to do that. I think that I'd like to see you do it is 2 lots per acre minimum.
Thank you, sir. Oh, no. We're not supposed to clap. We have to keep it professional, and I know you will. All right. Who wants to go next? Thank you for coming.
My name is Patrick Kaufman. I reside at 6565 Bamberry Crossing. I sent some correspondence to the Planning Commission in regards to the residences that are proposed, which are 40 feet high, 3 stories tall. These are tall and skinnies. The effort in the Planning Commission states that they should maintain the integrity of the neighborhood. There is no 3-story, 40-foot wide house in this area. The lots are half the width of that of Bamberry Crossing lots, which does not comply to the integrity of the neighborhoods. A 20-foot walkway was originally proposed, and now there's an 8-foot walkway proposed to allow these residences to come into our neighborhood. Why should they have access to our neighborhood? We have enough trouble now with kids skipping through this property and getting into the pool, which creates a liability for the HOA itself. If you take a look at the demographics for the numbers of accidents that have occurred at that curve on Edmondson Pike, over the last 4 years, in 2018, there were 89 accidents with 42 injuries. 2019, there were 93 accidents with 46 injuries. In 2020, there were 40 accidents with 19 injuries, and in 2021, 82 accidents with 40 injuries. There was a new guardrail placed up there just before Christmas, and I can't tell you how many times it's already been demolished. If you want further confirmations of accidents, contact Engine 10 and the ambulance housed there. They will verify how dangerous this is already. In addition, there are 10 properties being built across the street. Now, we're talking about an average of 49 additional residences with 2 vehicles per residence trying to get in and out of this area. That's a lot of traffic additionally. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Who wants to go next? Anyone else? Come on up. Thank you for coming.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline Marshall, and I live at 5999 Edmondson Pike. I'm the 4.92 acre property that's right next to this development. This development is going to significantly affect my quality of life and my family's quality of life. We bought the property that we did 8 years ago, almost 8 years ago, because we wanted privacy. And now all of these homes, all of these people are going to be looking over onto our property at everything we're doing. So one of the things I want to know is if all of these homes are going to be built there, what's going to be done to divide and to differentiate their property line from mine? And is there going to be a fence put up for privacy, for their privacy and for our privacy? It's a lot of homes. I'd like to know what the red arrow means. That looks like I can't tell from the drawing, but it looks like it might be going towards my property. And there was talk about a south pedestrian entrance or something like that. And if I understand it correctly, my property is south of this development. So I would kind of like to hear about that and just know what's going to be done to differentiate the property line from all of these people's backyards or side yards or front yards, however it's going to be built, against my property. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Come on up. Next speaker.
My name is Joe Cutsko. I live at 1208 Bamberry Row in the neighborhood just to the north. I'm not going to add an awful lot of new stuff here, but I just want to reiterate that the original plan that was presented, the lots were about 66 feet wide, and now there's a big increase of 4 more feet that will really, as previous speakers mentioned, will really necessitate the construction of long or tall and skinny homes in the neighborhood. If you look to the north where Bamberry is, all these lots are significantly greater road frontage, and so it would necessitate that a smaller number of lots should be required for this to be approved. In addition, we would speak in opposition to any connection also, as the previous speakers have spoke, in regards to the new walkway goes directly past our pool area, which is not appropriate. Another issue is this: we've heard a lot about the proposed roundabout that is going to be supposedly built. I would hope that we would, as neighbors here, we would know that this is a definite in writing sort of commitment, because we've heard previous promises of developers in that area say that a roundabout was going to be built before anything else got done. And now, as previous speakers have said, it's a dangerous intersection, and it's getting more dangerous all the time. And this additional development will make that problem worse. So I ask that we're not against this approval of projects, but we are against the project as it's proposed.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Welcome.
Hi, my name is Scott Addington. I live at 908 South Wickshire Way in Bamberry Crossing. I would just like to second a lot of what was already said today by my neighbors. I do feel like the 2 lots per acre should be held to. I think that should be significant and should be enough for it to still be viable for Beazer to continue to build on the property, even at the previously held density. Additionally, the connection into Bamberry that's currently been proposed by staff here, a lot of my neighbors that are not here today, which, by the way, saying we went from 300 at the hearing to now however many we have here today is pretty unfair, because it's a big difference to get people together at about 7 o'clock in your backyard versus all the way downtown at 4 p.m. on a workday. So I would make sure that that's not taken into account here. There's been many input from many of my neighbors also sent through email. But all that said, I do think that connection to Bamberry risks our own amenities that we have that this plan will not have. It would be different if they had their own pool, if they had their own tennis courts. Those are not part of the plan, so it would be very tempting for them to come in and use our amenities and put more undue burden on us to try to keep them out if that were the case. I'm also concerned about the roundabout and that actually being part of the plan, especially when Mr. Dale said that the plan and that improvement was completely separate and standalone. The whole point is that they're supposed to be dependent upon one another and that the improvement happens before this is actually approved. So with that, I thank you for hearing our point of view. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Come on up. We'll make sure we get everybody. Come on up. Welcome.
Thank you. My name's Catherine Cutsko. I live at 1208 Bamberry Row in Bamberry Crossing. I want to reiterate the danger of this traffic corridor. A month and a half ago, I went up to my neighbor's house to check on her because she was involved with an accident. At 6:30 a.m., she pulled out onto Edmondson going north, and around that dangerous curve, opposite the mangled guardrail, came around, listen to this, went into her lane, hit her passenger side of her car. She ends up with a broken arm and a a wrecked up wrist. Not a medical term. But at any rate, Nathan, we're talking about a very dangerous intersection. That was at 6:30 in the morning. And by the grace of God, the mother of 4 children is still with us today. If he had hit her driver's side, there was a very high potential that we all would be going to a funeral. So I'd like you to take this into commission. So my question, circling back, Nathan here, my question is, who is the authority to make sure that this roundabout is completed? If for some reason the ground is broke and there's no roundabout, what's our recourse? That's what I want to know. Nathan, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. So anyone else wishing to speak? It's okay. Don't worry about the phone. That's why I always announce it, but, I appreciate you knowing that. All right. Anyone else wishing to speak? I want to make sure everybody speaks. All right. Rebuttal. 2 minutes. Mr. Dale.
I'm sorry I confused some people. The reason I didn't want to talk about the roundabout, I'm just saying this plan is a good plan. However, the roundabout is a part of this plan. Not a single building permit can be granted on this property without the roundabout actually being completed. So, and you heard several people talk about the danger of that existing intersection. So the development of this property, the construction of this property will create the traffic improvements needed at that intersection. And it's a part of the plan, and no building permit will be issued until that roundabout is bonded or completed. You heard a little bit of discussion about the access to the community. When staff reviewed this, I intentionally didn't revise the plan because I wanted that to be brought to you as a condition so you could discuss it, because that's one of the things the community has some concerns about. Perhaps instead of making a condition that the pedestrian connection is required, maybe it could be something that could be worked out within the neighbors, that it's encouraged and that an easement be provided there for the future access if you feel like the neighbors' concerns are valid. As far as the access to the south, it's correct. It would be an access to the adjacent property, a future roadway access, which is probably needed, which I think the staff has a good position on that. Again, I didn't show it on the plan because it's something I wanted you to be able to discuss as a condition. The lots are wider, they're larger, they're deeper. There is a landscape buffer. I think that was another question. There's existing fairly intense buffers already along the property lines, but they will be supplemented to meet Metro standards. So if there's any dead trees or trees that need to be removed, they would be removed and replaced. so that adequate buffering can be provided between properties. These lots are deep, so buildings will be setting far off the property lines. So I think that's good for the neighbors as well. And I think that answered most of their concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councilman Swope, welcome. Good to see you again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 2 times in 2 weeks. I think COVID's over. Can we all agree? Mr. Chair, Councilman, Commissioners, good to see you all again. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. I know better than anyone that lives here because I live right around the corner from this. I think Roy's just addressed pretty much the issues with the rear entrance or the rear connectivity to Bamberry. Bamberry does not want it. I don't want it. I think it's a bad idea. There's already, by the way this is laid out, there's already a natural buffer space between the two. I would prefer it to be left that way. I understand fire and EMT and all those issues, but I don't think it's necessary right here, to be honest with you. As far as a future stub road to the south, that's entirely up to you guys. I don't think it changes anything in the plan of any consequence. Architectural standards, Beazer has agreed to do 100% brick homes. I have not heard anything about a 3-story home, period. It's 2-story homes. These will start at $1 million. So this is not affordable housing going into an upscale neighborhood. This is incredibly expensive housing going into an upscale neighborhood. I have spoken to Banbury's HOA pretty much daily for the past 3 weeks, and we're entering talks right now about combining this future HOA with Banbury's HOA. Now, very, very initial stages of the conversations. I can't say whether that's going to happen or whether we want it to happen. That's up to Banbury's residents to make up their minds and make their decision. But either way, it all comes down to one thing and one thing only: the roundabout, the thing I've been working for 7 years. To set the record straight and in public, when Beazer built Cameron Park across the street, they promised to convey the land for the roundabout to the city, which they did. The city owns this land already. Beazer will have to buy a small easement from Greg Woods, who has the property at the southeast corner of Edmondson Pike. Those negotiations are ongoing, but it doesn't matter what it costs. Beazer has agreed to pay it. Further, Beazer, Gresham Smith Engineering, and I met with NDOT this past Monday. And NDOT has agreed to issue any and all permits so that Beazer can, at their own sole expense, design, construct, and implement this roundabout. It does several things. And I wish I had this in print for you, but I've just received the drawings at 4:10 this afternoon. It moves the entire intersection east, thereby eliminating the hard curve on Edmondson Pike. I have desperately tried to get this hard curve or anything fixed at that intersection for 7 years, but apparently nobody's died there recently. So as a consequence, it's not urgent in the city's mind. And I'm not talking about planning, I'm talking about public works. The only reason anybody hasn't died there is because the corner is so hard, you can't go that fast around it. It's just physics. You know, if 2 cars collide at 80 miles an hour, somebody's going to get really bad hurt. If they collide at 30 miles an hour, there's going to be injury, but it's not going to register as a death statistic for Public Works or NDOT to evaluate. I think there's too many homes here, but that's the compromise I'm willing to make to get this roundabout done, to correct this intersection. I'm meeting with traffic and parking next Thursday to put in a traffic light at Edmondson and Holt, which is less than a mile south of this. So there's a lot of things happening on Edmondson right now that will correct the massive problems we've had there. And you've heard from my constituents, the guardrail they put up, I don't think it lasted 10 days. And it was gone. And they bent it back into shape again, and within 2 days, it was gone again. And I think Public Works has kind of given up on it for the moment until we get through this process right here. So I would ask that you pass this. with conditions, I would ask that you remove any kind of pedestrian connection between the two subdivisions. I don't think it's necessary. And let us work towards a combined HOA with Bamberry. With that, I thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Seeing no one else wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. And Vice Chairman, you want to go first?
Can I just get clarity on where this roundabout is?
Yeah, can you, Jason, go back up a couple of slides. We've got a more zoomed out. Keep going. There. Oh, stop.
That work?
Stop, yeah. So if you see the two red outlines of these properties, Edmondson Pike is the property the road that is to the east, and then go up to the next intersection. Do you see what I'm saying? North to where the road is intersecting.
North to where the road's intersecting.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
You can see where there's sort of a dip in the right-of-way, and that's where some of the right-of-way has already been dedicated with the development that's on that quadrant.
So Edmondson and Bamberry
Oh,
Station?
Jason just circled it on the map.
Thank you.
Yeah, sort of.
We don't have our screen, so we're,
Oh.
we're not,
Oh,
we're
I'm
having a hard time.
I didn't,
okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so that is helpful.
Yeah, it's close.
So I guess the other question is the variance on the cul-de-sac length. I mean, I know that that is an issue that comes up a lot with specific plans like this. We feel confident that the one access point, I mean, it seems like that's, I guess the fire.
So fire has indicated that with the number of units, that one access point meets the fire code. So it's 36 units with one access. They have indicated we double-checked to make sure. When this came in, it was originally 39 units, and then it was decreased to 36. And so we checked to make sure and did the homework, and they did say that yes, and I think you'll even see in their comments where it indicates that one access is sufficient. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And did we have any conversation with the applicant about trying to bring the units per acre more in line? I mean, this map is fairly compelling that everything around here is closer to 2 units per acre. Did we?
So when we were looking at it from the standpoint of more holistically, if you look at sort of a broader area, west of Edmondson Pike, the lots range from 10,000 up to 13, 14, 15, and larger. And then if you look sort of on the east side, you get into some that are significantly smaller. So most of the lots where Jason has this map here, it's averaging 13,000. And these lots are 12. And so it's slightly smaller, but we felt it was still generally compatible. And so neighborhood maintenance basically says that, we do expect that there will be some change, and that we would expect it to be generally compatible. We felt that this slightly smaller lots was still generally compatible, especially if you look at the broader area and the lot sizes on the east side of Edmondson as well.
Okay. Okay. I do support the pedestrian access point. I think that makes sense. I'm not as convinced on the sub-street to the south, just because it does make sense that eventually all of this could get redeveloped, but given the property owner immediately adjacent is here saying they don't plan to, I'm a little less sold on the stub street, but I'll listen to my other commissioners.
Commissioner Tibbs?
I'm hitting the wrong button. So I guess there's a few things. I definitely have real concerns about so many houses getting off onto Edmondson. This is a road I'm been very familiar with, and it is a dangerous road now. And like the councilman said, whether or not we've had fatalities or not, it's an adventure. You know, anytime you're driving on it right now, having this many homes emptying out on there, to me, is problematic. So I would I'd have to have that condition definite, that it was going to definitely happen. And I think, and so now I've gotten all these roundabouts mixed up now. So Roy, were you talking about that roundabout, or were you talking about the roundabout that shows up on the plan? There's a little roundabout that hooks back up to Bamberry.
It's just the intersection to the north.
Okay, that's one you said was happening.
Jason, can you circle so there's a cul-de-sac at the end of this road.
Yeah.
That's just a sort of turnaround for emergency vehicles. And then Jason's going to try to.
Okay.
So that's what you just said. I don't know what that is. That is the intersection where the roundabout is. So there's only one roundabout.
Okay.
And it's at that intersection.
Okay, I'm glad that was
Which is where
made
the
clear, because was thinking the cul-de-sac is what you were calling the roundabout. I understand the neighbor's concern about not having the access back there, and however, I'd feel a lot better if they had more ways to get out of there, because that is a lot of houses, even without it, you know. But definitely with it, it seems like there's too many homes, too many people that are having to empty out onto Edmonton there. I'm kind of where Vice Chair was. I feel like, so this is feeling more so, but I feel like the density level in that area is already okay, and not having to go that much denser. I know I know Lisa, that does make sense. It's just a little bit smaller, but it does, it seems like it's just kind of a dense spot there. I think I'd feel better about the density if it was easier access in and out of there, and I knew there was easier access, and not just, the roundabout's coming, you know. So that's where my pause is. If it was definite, I think I'd feel a little bit better. If it was definite that we could access Bamberry, I'd feel a little bit better. But as it is now, having to all those houses empty onto Edmonton, I'd have to say I'd feel better about keeping it the way it is as far as the density. But I'll be interested, the rest of my commissioners.
Commissioner Blackshear.
I don't have too much more to add other than when I was looking at the map and listening to the staff's presentation, I was confused as to why the lot sizes were deemed appropriate for neighborhood maintenance. And this map was really good in showing what the immediate and not so immediate area has on the lots. And your explanation was helpful too in thinking about how the staff analyzed it. So can you just give me a clearer picture how wide your study area was when thinking about what lot sizes would be deemed compatible enough for a neighborhood maintenance policy?
I mean, I think probably pretty much what you see on this screen. I mean, we, center it on that intersection where we've talked so much about putting in the roundabout, recognizing that Edmondson Pike is sort of where you've got a convergence of larger lots and some that are quite a bit smaller. And then also keeping in mind that the lots range in these neighborhoods. Banbury, I was just sort of clicking around. You've got 10,000 square foot lots and you've got 15,000 square foot lots. And so you're sort of averaging in places at around 13. And then on the opposite side, you're down averaging more around 10 in some areas. And so we were sort of like, well, 12 is just a little bit smaller than sort of the 13 average, that it was just, slightly smaller. And then 70 foot wide is a pretty significant width on a lot when you're talking about sort of house footprints.
That makes sense. It does still seem to be small enough or smaller enough that I'm a little hesitant to think that this would be appropriate under neighborhood maintenance. Obviously, the roundabout being included would be really helpful, and I'm hearing everything that everyone is saying about Edmondson and the traffic, but it does seem to me that, and I get that in neighborhood maintenance, there is some consideration for changing, but it does seem to me a small enough or smaller enough lot that I'm just a bit hesitant to think it will be appropriate under neighborhood maintenance, but definitely am interested to hear what other commissioners have to say.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I too was thinking about the lot size because adjacent neighbor, they do have 13,000 to 15,000 or sometimes more. So I understand staff's point. If you are to calculate 70% of the average, it will meet. But under the neighborhood maintenance, I would rather see a little bit push towards compatible to surrounding neighborhoods, such as above 13,000, close to 14,000, especially adjacent to. And in this, as always, I do appreciate the work of Councilman Swope, especially when it comes to traffic improvement, because that's a big deal. But as of right now, we do not have written, a contract or written condition for the roundabout, as far as I know, in that staff report. So I feel it's premature for us to approve as is, because we have not see any written guarantee. So I would like to see that as a point, condition. And also Staff Street, in theory, it makes sense for the future development, but at the same time, seems like it's sending the wrong message to the, existing neighbor. Hey, in the future, we're gonna put the street to you. And it's like, no, I am planning to stay in this property. This is my property. I intend to stay. So how are we going to, consolidate all those differences? So that's my concern. So overall, I think I do understand, the need to development, and I do understand, try to mix into the neighborhood. But as far as HOA, there are so many gray area. Some existing neighborhood may not welcome or embrace new development as a part of the HOA. So there's lots more, negotiation among the community. And I do not see any community, benefit as of right now, other than possible roundabout. So I would love to see more detailed negotiation among neighborhood and among community. And if by any chance HOA is not, this new development is not included existing HOA, I would love to have their own amenity. Because in this, I just see the open space. I don't know what open space will be the amenity for the new community. So overall, I feel like a little premature for me to approve at this point.
Councilman?
Thank you, Chair, and appreciate the thoughtful comments of my other fellow commissioners. Could I seek clarification either from staff or from the applicant or the engineer who represents the applicant? But we've heard about the roundabout. We've heard that building permits cannot be issued until that's constructed. Could we get clarification about that, please?
Sure. So there is a written condition already on the actual plan document that specifies the timing of approval of the roundabout, and it indicates that it has to be either built or bonded before permits. And so it wasn't included sort of in the staff report as a condition because it is a condition on the bill. I mean, I think you all could sort of say whatever the condition is that's on the plan, incorporated as a condition, but it is on the plan, the timing.
Well, thank you. That's very helpful, and I think probably if redundancy is beneficial for clarity, I think that's something we should consider as a commission. I do support the substreet. The neighbor, sometimes folks, their plans change, right? And so we do have areas to the south that are large lots. And I think that connectivity is something that we have to plan for the future. Even if that stub street is never extended, it allows a possibility for internal connectivity that we will never have again if we don't plan for it. So I think that is something that we could consider as part of the plan. I think it's generally a good idea. I agree with Commissioner Johnston that I think I would, if we are increasing, I'm not as hung up on the lot size as maybe others are. And one of the reasons for that for me is that this is sort of its own internal street, so it's not really blending into other streets, right? So this lot comparability is really to other lots on this street that we're creating. So I'm not as hung up maybe on that side as maybe some of my other commissioners are concerned about. But I do agree with Commissioner Johnston that I think having some sort of an amenity of some kind that's a little bit better clarified in this plan might be a little bit more of a selling point in terms of not only neighborhood maintenance policy, but also potential for the homes themselves. I don't necessarily know what that is, but we have some, it looks like a stream buffer, which is probably required anyway. We have some, like retention ponds and a little bit of open space, but I think having some sort of an amenity of some sort would be a big selling point for this plan. Again, not just from a policy standpoint, but also from a homeownership standpoint. That might be something to work on a little bit more. In terms of the size of the houses and the lots, in District 6, our average lot size is 7,500 square feet. We have lots of people building pools. I think if people want to build a pool, they can definitely build their own pool in their yard, so I'm not as concerned about that per se. But I think the green space and open space in the HOA would, somewhere in that area would be something that maybe could be defined a little bit more. As I recall, base residential zoning allows houses of 3 stories and 40 or more feet anyway. If it is the case that these homes are going to be limited in what's proposed to about 2 stories, maybe we could put a condition in that sense that limits it to a little bit lower than the 3 and 40 if that makes people feel a little bit more comfortable, but that might be something to discuss with the applicant and the council member. It sounds like that's within the plan anyway, that may provide a little bit more assurance to the neighbors. There is a landscape buffer that's already present, so there will be trees. And does a Class B landscape buffer include a fence?
It doesn't, and I think sometimes when you're trying to maintain vegetation that's there, then you wouldn't necessarily want to require a fence because you would have to remove sort of the natural buffer that's there to install a fence, so.
Well, thanks for that.
It's generally sort of one or the other unless you're
really creative with building a fence, yes, yeah. Well, that's helpful. One thing too, I just want to share is that when I hear a comment from a community member that says, why should these residents have access to our neighborhood? I just want to say that that's very concerning to me as a community member. I understand that folks would not necessarily want others to have access to a pool or your amenity. I understand that part, that your HOA is paying for it, you have liability, you have maintenance for it. I get that part. But just want to kind of remind everyone that we are all neighbors in Nashville, even folks moving into your neighborhood are your neighbors, and let's try to keep that viewpoint at the forefront of our conversations, that whether or not folks are sharing your pool, and it sounds like they would not be, and you might need to put a fence up around your pool, but they will be your neighbors. So just want to keep everyone mindful of that. Other than that, I appreciate the dialogue. It sounds like we're going to continue to have it. I think my thought is that this plan, I think a lot of work has gone into it, and maybe a little bit more work could go into it before I think we're all comfortable with it. But I look forward to hearing. Otherwise, I generally do find that it meets neighborhood maintenance policies. I think some conditions could be tweaked, and perhaps the council member could continue to work out a few additional details. I'm generally comfortable that it meets policy, but look forward to hearing what my fellow commissioners have to say.
Thank you, Councilman. Commissioner Henley.
Well, I'm glad that a few things that I was going to mention were actually mentioned by the council member. But a couple things that stood out to me. I mean, I think I heard a lot of the concerns from the community. I think a lot of them, stood out to me. I think the one about the overall lot size is one I think is interesting, and I appreciate staff's explanation for that. I mean, I've not been bashful about my support for incremental density and density moving into areas, as our city has to take advantage of those spaces to accommodate the influx of residents that we have. So I'm, again, more of an urbanite, so I also am more comfortable with the size, and I recognize that's not uniform across our city. So I do want to say I understand the community's concern and desire to see that. Again, lot sizes can impact building practices, but again, it doesn't determine or define them. And I think currently in the SP, I saw 3 stories and 40 there, and so I wanted to just highlight that for the community, just on this case and going forward, I think it's important to be specific about that, and not necessarily think that the lot sizes are going to drive the overall product of a home. The other thing I was going to mention, very similar to the council members, the street to me is an internal street, and I think that's one where the traffic concerns for exiting that space have to be dealt with internally to that community only. Human behavior augments. If everyone's leaving out at a certain time and you're going to be stuck in your own interior street, you will change that. And I think this is a good example of, honestly, a form of public-private partnership where we've got a developer that has committed to take on all of the things that they need to do something that the city unfortunately has failed to do. It sounds like for more than 7 years, based on what Councilmember Swope said. And to me, I think that's a version of a win. It sounds like it may also need to come with some additional traffic calming. But I think you get the roundabout and you see what happens and you go from there. But I really like to emphasize that it's challenging as we look for people to, build up our communities, and they're continuously seen as negative players based on the lack and the failure of our public infrastructure to serve a community. It sounds like everything we just talked about was a problem, from traffic to safety, even before we had one additional home built here, let alone what'll come in the future. So I think it's very important for our residents to keep and stay open-minded, see these as opportunities for our communities to be improved. And for me, again, I don't necessarily have a strong opinion about the potential road to the south, but again, having someone here speak against that, I think resonates. But I do understand the desire to think about the future if that eventually becomes a developable area as well. And the pedestrian connection is one. I think it's highlighted in the comments that my fellow commissioner said. The plan as shown, it doesn't really see something that seems like there might be a mutual exchange of amenities or desire. I think everyone perceives this as, a group of residents that will then kind of have a one-way flow to amenities that community has had for a long time. So that I definitely understand and think it may be some great opportunities, as the council member mentioned, to find a way to make something at that upper left-hand corner on the screen, for me, additive to that community if there is a remaining or a future connection that will be proposed there. But those are my comments to this point. I'll hand it off to my fellow commissioners.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Haynes?
So I happen to agree with Commissioner Henley. It sounds like the councilman has worked long and hard to get this roundabout constructed, and as a trade-off to get slightly more density for the applicant and developer to have the burden to install the roundabout. If they don't get this last easement, if asphalt prices go up, they've still got the burden before they can get permits. I think that's a decent trade-off. I agree with Councilman Withers. I think if the applicant would be amenable, since they're going to build 2-story and brick anyway, to change the language from 3 and 40 to 2, I think that's a decent trade-off to protect the neighborhood.
Commissioner Lawson? Nothing, Commissioner. Commissioner.
Well, it's just a lot of similarities in some other projects that we've had before, as usual. I can't add a whole lot to the discussion so far. I want to listen a little more. I know we get to a point where we're going to...
There you go, Commissioner.
I was going to turn it on. Okay.
Go ahead. Say that again.
No. I would like, first of all, to see the density a little bit larger a little larger lots, but of course, everybody would like to do that. I've been an advocate for having other street access to subdivisions, but in this case, I don't think it is appropriate. I think it would make your traffic patterns worse. So, other than that, I think it's doable as it is presented.
Thank you, Commissioner. And so now we're ready for a motion of some sort. Does any commissioner want to try to make a motion with all of the discussion that's been had? Commissioner Haynes?
Prior to making a motion, can we ask the applicant, are they willing to modify the current language in the SP from 3 and 40 to 2 stories?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I just talked to Beazer here. They said they only build 2 stories, right? So, yeah.
All right.
So I'll make a motion to approve staff's recommendation, adding a condition that height is limited to 2 stories and
sorry. It can vary pretty significantly, depending on the plan and the slope of the roof. I mean, I'm assuming these will be traditional with a pitched roof, and so roofs can add a good bit of height.
applicant would.
I don't know if there's a range that they have on the plans, but I mean, generally probably 35, I think, is appropriate.
So, hold on, okay, so let's, 35, is that, Dale, Mr. Dale, would you
Yeah, I
say?
think y'all already said 40. We could go to 35. I think it'd be fine.
35, okay.
So I'll move approval of staff's recommendation with adding a condition of a height limitation of 2 stories and 35 feet.
All right, it's a proper motion and second.
Chairman, point of clarification.
And Commissioner Johnson, a point of clarification, yes.
Have we settled with the stub road to the south? In the staff recommendation condition, it's one of the conditions, but eliminate the connection to the existing, north side. So,
Director?
May I offer just a little perspective on that? Lisa, can you pull up the broader map? There you go. So I don't know that for this particular plan, having the stub road to the south is absolutely critical. But what I will say is that I would venture to guess that most of the streets that you see here, from Wexford Downs Lane to even Branberry to some of these others, all probably had stubs to somebody's property. That's how, some cities go out and actively acquire right-of-way. We are a city that in these areas, we typically accomplish this property by property. And so I would just want to say that for the record, to reassure the homeowners that that's not in any way, the homeowners to the south, a suggestion that we're going to take property or that there's an interest in forcing the property to develop, but that this overall pattern here has, my guess is, developed over the last 40 or 50 years with stub roads that have eventually been added onto. And so it's consistent with the habits. But I would leave it to the commission to determine that. And typically we stub to give us opportunities in the future. Sometimes the stubs never happen, right? And we never actually do the extension. But I did want to reassure, everyone at the dais here and the audience as well, that it's not meant to suggest or force. It's to leave a future opportunity. But I would leave, Lisa, any concerns with removing the stub to the south? Other than it's consistent with our practice.
Right. It's consistent with our practice. I don't know that it's make or break, but it could be sort of limiting in the future to other properties that are to the south. So, I think we just try to sort of be forward thinking, but I don't think it's a make or break for this one.
So, Commissioner, the answer is yes, it's in the current conditions, the southern stub. And just also for a clarification, that the roundabout has to be either bonded or built before the permits are issued, and that's in the plan. That's in the current plan.
We could add that as a condition here. I think that would.
I think for transparency purpose, it is in the plan, so we would see that as a force of, if the council hypothetically approved that site plan, we would treat that condition as part of the council approval. But I think to reassure everyone, would be my recommendation to pull it out and replicate it so that everyone knows that it's part of this approval.
So Commissioner Haynes, before you make your official motion, you're going to, I think that it would be helpful to make the first one that you already made, which is the 35-foot height, 2 stories, and then the second is that the roundabout be either bonded or built before the permits are issued, as in the plan.
So I will amend my motion.
Yep.
To approve staff's recommendation with 2 additional conditions. The first being to limit the height to 2 stories and 35 feet. The second, that the roundabout is either fully constructed or bonded prior to issuing permits.
All right, so without objection, he's amending his motion. No objection, seeing no. All right, so there's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. 3 noes. Ayes have it, and it passes. Thank you, everyone, for coming down. We appreciate it. And so now we're on to item 20. Thank you, Chairman. I need to be reminded every once in a while. All right. And just a clarification, it was 6 ayes, 3 noes on the last vote. I want to make sure, Alex, I want to make sure we're doing everything right. Okay. All right. Item 20.
Item 20 is a request to rezone from office general to office residential intensive alternative. Property is located on the north side of Charlotte Pike. I-40 is just to the west. This is the property. It's approximately 1.2 acres. Staff is recommending approval. The existing zoning is OG. The surrounding parcels to the west and north and south are ORIA. Property just on the other side of 31st Avenue is industrial restrictive. Again, the proposed zoning is ORIA. This is in the North Nashville Community Plan, the policy-centered mixed-use neighborhood. It is intended to maintain and create high-intensity urban mixed-use neighborhoods. Staff finds that the proposed ORIA zoning district is consistent with the policy. It permits an intensity that is appropriate. It includes urban design standards consistent with the policy and is consistent with recent rezonings and the surrounding zoning pattern, including the adjacent properties. Conclusion, staff is recommending approval.
Two sir. We'll open this item for public hearing. Is the applicant in the room? Come on up. State your name and address, and you have 10 minutes and can save 2 of the 10 minutes for rebuttal.
I'm Gilbert Smith. I live at 4401 Chickering Lane. I'm the owner and the applicant of that lot. It's 37 feet by 145. We've owned the base of that property surrounding it since 1913. My daughters own the adjacent property and the ones to the west between that and the interstate. I own all the ones up 31st, and as I bought them, I've been changing the zoning to match. It's zoned OG. I'm asking you to go to ORIA, and I think that's consistent with policy.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. And we'll save 2 minutes for rebuttal for you. We appreciate you coming down. Anyone wishing to speak in support? In support? Come on up. Oh, okay. Seeing no, anyone wishing to speak in support? Okay. Seeing none, anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Come on up. And you'll have 2 minutes. State your name and address. We appreciate you coming down.
Yeah, my name is Mark Norton. I live at 410B 33rd Avenue North. If you go back a couple of slides, you can actually see where I live in proximity to this. It's just on the other side of the interstate. It's a unique area in Nashville. It's one where it's a steep hill. We all have tremendous views of downtown. It's why I bought there. It's why everyone in my neighborhood bought there. And we bought there as well, largely because of the proximity to downtown and the views that we had, right? The zoning that's in place around this property, RIA, does allow for a larger and taller height relative to the setback. And by changing this, our concern is that a larger building would be built. That's not just a concern that we have that's not grounded in anything real. The marketing materials from the real estate agency that's there do display a 6 to 15-story building, which would block all of our views and be very injurious, not to just our property values, but also our daily life, as car flow, traffic flow, and things like that are flowing onto Charlotte would negatively impact our ability to get in and out of our homes during rush hour. And so we feel strongly that that should be considered as part of any changes to the zoning here, but also any potential site plans that come in place over the next couple of years or even over the next few months. Across the street from this is One City, and we think that this is largely a play to expand One City on the other side of Charlotte. I brought pictures. Since pictures are worth 1,000 words, can I just show my computer? Is that cool?
On your computer?
Yeah, can I just display that to you guys, or do I need to share that a different way?
Well, how about this? How about you send them to the staff team?
I can send them to the staff team. I think since you're going to make a decision on this today, it might be helpful. Do you mind if
you got 18 seconds?
18 seconds, awesome. Apple's really fast at loading everything. So here's the view from my bedroom. As you can see, I have this tremendous view of downtown, largely why I bought the property. My other neighbors have the same view. As we go to the other side, this is the proposed building from the real estate development team, which would be injurious to that view, and those are my neighbors. So thank you, guys. We appreciate it.
That's pretty good, 18 seconds. Thank you. Very good. All right. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Come on up. Welcome.
Hey, Wesley Green, 3112 Trevor Street. I'm actually just behind this property or adjacent to it from the interstate. And I have the same concerns. I don't know what the current height restrictions are for that zoning as it stands. And being in construction, I understand that if you're trying to get the last piece of property to match the rest of the zoning, the next step is to build something big and most likely multifamily. And would most likely be more than 6-7 stories, like the rendering on the property now shows. So more concerned about the future restrictions, height restrictions tagged with this property as it moves forward, and that they be in line with protecting our view, adjacent, from the interstate. Again, it's the number one reason we all purchased the property we're in. We're in tight confinements right now. Lots of things I could have bought, had a lot more space, but not as much view. So it's all about the view.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Anyone else? All right, seeing no one else, 2-minute rebuttal.
Jay, can we bring the other picture up that shows the surrounding properties, please? All that ORIA is part of the same family properties. And so anything that's ORIA in height to the west would do the same thing. This doesn't do anything new to the area.
Thank you, sir. All right, and the councilman is not here, so seeing no one else wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. And Chairman Lawson, you want to go first?
Listen to some of the...
Oh, but microphone, Chairman.
Oh, yeah. Catch me every time.
Every time.
I think it's as appropriate as it is. I mean, I can't say a whole lot more other than that. I don't disagree with the changes. I know we all would like to see certain things develop in a different mode and a different pattern, but unfortunately, we can't do that. We have to do what we have planned for it. And if that makes sense, then that's my statement for today.
Thank you, Chairman. Commissioner Haynes?
So, Jason, under OG, what is the current limitation on height?
He's got the slit for ORI, and I was over here looking up OG. So OG doesn't have a maximum height. It's depending on a height control plane. So there is no maximum. You would be limited based on sort of the size of this individual lot. I was just looking at the policy to see if OG is even supported in T5. This may be a situation where we're actually bringing it to compliance with T5, but OG doesn't have a maximum height, but it's dependent on a height control plane.
So I agree with staff's analysis, and while I appreciate the neighbors' concerns, the majority, if not all, except for this 0.12 acres, you can build a very high multifamily project, and he could design around this lot, and it could be a low-level garden, and I think that's not a good plan. So I support staff's recommendation.
Commissioner Henley?
Nothing further to add.
Councilman?
I agree. I support staff's recommendation. I definitely empathize with neighbors who bought a house with views, but what I would share is that I distinctly recall during council last term, we had a lot of concern from neighbors that lived over on that side of the interstate on some of those streets, 33rd, 34th up in there, and they were very concerned about those houses being built as well. It's just a reality in an urban neighborhood that views are not protected. And so I empathize with it, but it's just not something that we can control for, and particularly with seeing the map with so much other ORI surrounding it on larger parcels, this just brings consistency to the site. So I support the staff recommendation.
Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you. I do sympathize the speakers. I understand you don't want to lose what you are used to. However, knowing the change from OG to ORI does not increase the height, rather probably in a way decrease the height, and on top add residential usage, and considering surrounding lots, I think this zone change makes sense.
Commissioner Tibbs? Vice Chair?
I also sympathize with the neighbors, but I think the zone change makes sense. I do want to just take this as a moment to say I want to be cautious about how we're developing around the interstate loop. All of a sudden, I'm realizing as you drive up 65 South, you see a wall, which is starting to get in the way of seeing downtown Nashville. So as we continue to build up height along the inner loop, I think we should just make sure we keep in mind how we want to see our city. So not for this specific property, but just for future reference. But with that, I'll make a motion that we accept staff's recommendation.
That's a proper motion, and it's been seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor of staff's recommendation approved, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. And so that concludes our public hearing items. Thank you, everybody, for coming down. And so now we're on to other business. Item 26, historic. Commissioner Johnson?
No new report for today, thank you.
Okay. Parks? No report. Commissioner Haynes has no report. Executive Committee report. We don't have any report, do we, Vice Chair?
No, except that there's a work session, right?
Yes, and I think the director was going to talk about that. So absolutely. Thank you. Very good reminder. So we'll go to director's report. Director?
So I'm really looking forward to the work session. We're going to report out on the work you've asked us to do around the downtown code. We're going to get a preliminary overview of the housing work that is happening under Angie Hubbard's leadership. we're not ready to report out. We actually want to get some guidance from you about the kinds of things you would find helpful in a housing policy discussion and let you know what's happening on a citywide level. And then we do have some updates for you on the East Bank planning work that we want to share, and then make you aware of several other projects that we're going to be undertaking elsewhere in the city. And so I'm looking forward to it. I hope you can all attend.
So, Commissioners, it's a good time to remind the Vice Chair and I want to remind, and the Director want to remind you these workshops are really important. So please, I know everybody has a work schedule, but we try to make them. And so if everybody could try to make it.
Could you just restate the date?
The date,
Oh,
Director.
forgive me. It is the 2nd.
22nd.
The 22nd,
I don't remember what
excuse me.
time, but it's on the 22nd.
Director,
Can
you get
we
us
will send a follow-up, forgive me.
follow-up email on it for the Commissioners? Thank you. That would be very helpful. All right. And so legislative update, last item.
Just wanted to reiterate how excited I am about the East Bank and appreciate everyone's work to date and look forward to having further discussions about that. Just also kind of want to state for the viewing audience, because I know we do have a viewing audience, that discussions about the Titans at Nissan Stadium that is located on the East Bank, but it is not. The East Bank planning study isn't contingent upon that. Those are separate items. They're very related geographically, but just want to remind everyone that we are doing an East Bank planning study for the entire East Bank to make that work for the future and not to conflate any one particular property with the East Bank as a whole. But otherwise, I think we're having a great discussion. The Titans, President Burt Nile gave a wonderful presentation, I thought, very thoughtful at this morning's Metro Sports Authority meeting. So if you get a chance to view that, I think you'll be very encouraged by the thoughtfulness that the Titans are bringing to their obligations to the city and to their hopes to be a good partner to our city and to Metro Planning for many years. But those are separate items. Look forward to moving forward with the East Bank Planning Study very, very soon, at least for phase 1 as it pertains to multimodal transportation, bikeways, and greenways networks. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Is there a motion to adjourn? We're adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.